Right now, if you cross the street on a red light, something inside you flinches, even if no one is watching. Why? No police officer, no camera, no punishment waiting around the corner, and yet some invisible force inside your brain still hesitates. That feeling didn't come from nowhere. It's the end result of a system humans built over tens of thousands of years, long before writing, long before kings, long before a single word we'd recognize as law ever existed. So here's the real question. If there were no police, no courts, and no written rules, how did early humans stop each other from killing, stealing, and destroying everything they built? How do you control a group of people with nothing but instinct and fear? And here's what makes this even stranger. Some of the earliest evidence suggests that laws didn't start with punishment at all. They may have started with something far more personal, something almost invisible, hiding inside human biology itself. To understand this, you have to go back roughly 300,000 years, long before agriculture, long before cities, back when humans lived in small hunter-gatherer bands of maybe 20 to 50 people. No writing, no prisons, no armies, just survival. At first glance, this looks like chaos waiting to happen. But researchers studying modern hunter-gatherer societies, like anthropologist Christopher Boehm, found something surprising. These early groups weren't lawless at all. They had rules, strict ones, just not written on stone or paper. Boehm spent years studying societies like the Jew/Honsi of the Kalahari and mapped out what he called a reverse dominance hierarchy. In simple terms, if one person in the group tried to bully others, hoard resources, or seize power, the rest of the group didn't wait for a king or judge to intervene. They acted together, gossip, public shaming, exclusion from the campfire. In extreme cases, banishment from the entire group. But here's where things get strange. Being kicked out of the group wasn't just embarrassing. In the ancient world, it was often a death sentence. Alone, without a group's protection, food sharing, or defense against predators, a banished individual rarely survived long. So the fear of exile may have been one of the very first laws humans ever obeyed. Not written anywhere, but enforced through something even more powerful: social survival instinct. Then scientists discovered something even more unexpected. This fear wasn't just cultural. It appears to be wired into the human brain itself. In 2003, psychologist Naomi Eisenberger led a study at UCLA using brain scans to measure what happens when people are socially excluded, even in a simple computer game. The result was startling. The brain region that activated during social rejection, the anterior cingulate cortex, was the same region that activates during physical pain. In other words, being cast out of the group didn't just feel bad. Your brain processed it almost like an injury. That means early rule breakers weren't just risking punishment. They were risking something the brain interpreted as physical danger. So maybe the earliest law in human history wasn't "don't steal" or "don't kill." Maybe it was simpler and older than that. Don't get excluded. But rules based on fear and shame only work in small groups where everyone knows everyone. So what happens when human societies get bigger? That's when everything changed. As farming spread around 10,000 years ago, populations exploded. Villages became towns. Towns became cities. And a strange problem emerged. You could no longer rely on gossip and shame to control behavior because you are now surrounded by strangers, people you didn't grow up with, people whose reputation you didn't know. This is where formal law starts to appear in the historical record. One of the oldest known written legal codes comes from ancient Mesopotamia, the Code of Ur-Nammu, dating back to around 2100 BCE. Even before the more famous Code of Hammurabi, it laid out specific punishments for specific crimes, carved permanently into clay, visible to everyone, unchangeable by rumor or memory. But here's the real mystery. Why carve laws into stone at all? Why not just keep punishing people the old way? The answer connects to something deeply psychological. Written law solved a problem that pure social pressure never could: consistency. In small tribal groups, punishment could be personal, biased, or driven by whoever had the most influence that day. But once a law was carved into stone and placed in a public square, it applied the same way to everyone, even to the powerful, at least in theory. Historians studying Hammurabi's Code, one of the most complete surviving ancient legal texts from around 1754 BCE, point out something fascinating. It wasn't just a list of punishments. It was a public performance of fairness. The king wanted his people to believe that even he was bound by rules greater than his own mood. That idea that leaders should be limited by law rather than ruling purely by personal will is one of the most powerful concepts in human history, and it started not with democracy, but with a king trying to look untouchable and trustworthy at the same time. So which is it? Did laws exist to control the weak, or to convince people that even the powerful had limits? The honest answer is both, tangled together from the very beginning. Every law you follow today, from traffic signals to tax codes, traces its psychological roots back to a campfire thousands of years ago, where a group of early humans decided that one person's greed could not be allowed to threaten everyone else's survival. And when you feel that instinctive hesitation, that quiet discomfort before doing something you know is wrong, you're not just following a rule someone wrote down. You're feeling the echo of exile, a fear older than writing, older than kings, older than civilization itself, still running quietly in the background of your mind, deciding what you will and won't do next.